Morning, Trainiacs. Oh, let's let you brighten up a little bit so you can see my gorgeous face. There, about to do about a 4.5 kilometer swim set here, but that's not what we're talking about here today. With a lot of people just getting into setting those New Year's resolutions, and one of those resolutions being that they want to do their first triathlon, I'm getting a lot of questions from people saying, what do they wear? What do they wear under the wetsuit? What type of wetsuit should they use? Do they even need to use a wetsuit? Then what, or do they even need to change into anything for the bike and the run? Today I'm going to talk about what you need to wear for your first triathlon, give you some guidelines about how you do that, whether you are racing in cold weather, rainy weather, if you're a female, and at the end of the video we are going to talk about 4 do not do's specifically for beginner triathletes. All things like that. We'll do that right now. So what's up, triathletes? Today we're getting into what to wear for your first triathlon. If you're completely new here on this channel and on Instagram and in our podcast, we cover all things triathlon. We've done so for 5 years, and we've done so with a slight slant on helping the new triathletes in your first few years understand how to train, how to prepare, what gear to get, all those sorts of things. So today let's talk about what to wear for your first triathlon, and we're going to do this with the context of this is going to be your first triathlon. This isn't going to be the ideal gear that you get for the rest of your life, but it's going to get you to your first race. It's going to get you training and not break the bank. So let's start off on race day with the swim. I'm going to start with the wetsuit. Everyone asks, should I wear a wetsuit? Do I really need to wear a wetsuit? Do I even really bother investing in a wetsuit if I'm not sure if I'm going to be in the sport? Yes, you definitely need to have a wetsuit, and the reason for that is if you're new to the sport, you're probably not very confident swimming. Having that wetsuit to warm you up is going to eliminate that little bit of a chatter, so you're going to feel a lot less nervous. You're also going to have the added buoyancy of the wetsuit, so that if you freak out in the water, it's okay. You just lie on your back, float, and you're fine. Everything is completely safe. So from an enjoyment standpoint, from a keeping you up on the water standpoint, from a safety standpoint, get a wetsuit. But the trick that I recommend isn't renting a wetsuit or borrowing a wetsuit or buying like a kind of a top of the line wetsuit. If you're just new to triathlon, there's a wetsuit that I recommend that's on Amazon, and I will put an affiliate link in the description below, so if you end up buying it, it does help us out. But it's only in between about $100 and $200. A rental wetsuit might cost you about $80 to $100. So you're going to pay a little bit more, but you're going to get your own wetsuit that doesn't have somebody else's pee in. Trust me, it's there. And if you don't end up staying in the sport, you can end up reselling that wetsuit for almost as much as you paid for it. So it ends up costing you less than renting a wetsuit. Next, underneath the wetsuit, what you want to do is wear what you are going to wear for the rest of the race. That means that you're not changing in transition. And how to set this up is first, with a top. I recommend not a triathlon top. I recommend a tight-fitting cycling top that has sleeves. Why I recommend this is because you can use that cycling top in the race, and it's going to be nice and aerodynamic if it fits tightly, if there isn't a bunch of loose material around, and you can wear it in training. Now if you buy a triathlon one piece, you're going to look like this, and you're probably not going to want to be seen out in public when you're not doing a triathlon wearing that. So a tight-fitting cycling top will work for both equally well. Tight-fitting cycling top will have the pockets that'll be able to store your nutrition on race day. It's also going to have sleeves so that when you're out in the sun training, you're going to be less likely to burn on your shoulders. It's just a little bit more versatile. Conversely, let's go to what happens on the bottom underneath the wetsuit, and I would recommend actually tri-shorts for that. And the reason for that is because cycling shorts have a really big chamois, a big pad in the butt. And if you swim in that, you can get onto the bike and bike, but by the time you get to the run, you're gonna have really soggy butt, and it might lead to chafing and a bit of discomfort in the triathlon. Whereas triathlon shorts, they've got a chamois for some padding in the middle, but it's not so much that you can't run in it, so you can use it again, both for the triathlon and for training. Again, make sure that there isn't any loose fabric around, that's nice and narrow, sucked tightly to your body. Now let's get into the bike. Coming into transition, A, you don't change because we've set you up going into the swim with what you need. B, you typically don't need socks. Now, there's really no penalty to wearing socks, but if you want to feel confident, you want to look like what a lot of the people around you look like, and most of them are not going to be wearing socks. So you basically just wear exactly what you wore underneath your wetsuit. Now here are a couple of caveats. If it's really cold, you might consider some neoprene cycling booties that you can buy online for about $5 to $10. Put those over your cycling shoes when they're clipped into the bike and you're setting up your bike in transition, and it's going to take you no extra time to end up blocking yourself on your feet from the wind. It'll save your toes from feeling like bricks when you get onto the run. Also, if it's really cold, get yourself a windproof jacket that, again, has very little material, sucks itself to all of your extremities very, very tightly so it's nice and aerodynamic. And if it's really, really cold and you want to make sure that you can be dexterous by shifting and grabbing water bottles, grabbing nutrition, have windproof gloves. Wind is a bigger factor to guard against than cold, because you're generating so much body heat that you don't necessarily need to worry a lot about the cold, but that body heat can't really overcome the wind as well. So windproof on here, on your feet is going to do you a lot of favors. What if it's just a little bit cold though? In that case, what I recommend is just some arm warmers. Those are very easy to put on underneath your wetsuit. You can put them on underneath your cycling top, and then by the time you get out of the water, they're right there. You don't have to put them on in transition. They're going to add a little bit of warmth to that bike. And if it's rainy, just see if it's cold. Same sorts of things apply. Windproof also typically comes with waterproof, so it can go both ways. On the run, again, I don't recommend a full change in transition. However, you might want to consider socks. If it's a sprint or an Olympic distance triathlon, I would say you don't necessarily need socks. However, run about a half a dozen times in the weeks leading up to the race without socks to see if your feet can handle it. If they can't, put on socks. For half Ironman and Ironman races, I certainly recommend putting on socks. Regardless of whether you're going barefoot or wearing socks, I would recommend filling up your shoes with baby powder to dry off your feet from the sweat or road condensation if it's raining a little bit. That's going to reduce the likelihood of blisters. If you are likely to blister, especially if you're going barefoot, also take some Vaseline and smear that around the inside edge on the underside of the tongue of the running shoe. And that's going to prevent you from having a massive blister at the end of the run and just having an uncomfortable run. If it's cold, if it's rainy, use the same principles that we took on the bike. If it's just that little bit cool, again, arm warmers, but knowing that you are going to be a little bit warmer on the run than the bike, it's not as necessary. However, if it is really sunny and you're like me, coming from a wintry climate and going into a sunny race, you might want to consider arm covers and a hat, because sun beating down on your skin will actually slow you down if you're not used to it. Get yourself a decent pair of running shoes, and if you want to be extra cool and save a little bit of time in transition, invest about $7 into elastic laces. And those elastic laces are what just about everyone is going to end up using at some point. It's a very cheap way to save 20 to 30 seconds. Now let's get into those do not do's. If you're a female, do not use a typical bra. It's not meant to carry water or sweat. Use a sports bra, I hear. As far as swimwear, using a Speedo or long leg jammers or a one piece if you're a female, good in theory, but the issue with that is that there is no padding in that for when you're on the bike. So I'd stay away from that just to save the chafing and the mashing of things that might happen. Again, do not change in transition. And finally, if you are new to triathlon and you just want to think like at the last minute to stock up on something right before the race, definitely don't wear anything for the very first time on race day. New clothing tends to have sharper edges. It also might fit, especially when it's tight to the body, with a little crease. And if you don't know that that crease is there and it ends up chafing you in the actual race, like I've seen people develop scars from chafing so bad. So that's it, triathletes. If you made it this far into the video, you're likely new to triathlon. And my guess is swimming might be the most intimidating thing for you. For that, we've actually created a swim drill program that upwards of around 20,000 triathletes have gone through, and we have people from all around the world saying that it's completely changed their swimming. You can go and check that out for free at triathlonterran.com/swim drill program. And if you like YouTube videos, you spend a lot of time here and you want to learn about triathlon and have some fun with it too, hit the subscribe button below. Later, Trainiacs, I gotta go swim. I've been procrastinating for this entire video.